He left her at a gas station like she was nothing, but when she stepped out of a Rolls Royce months later, he didn't just see the woman he abandoned. He saw the one he'd never deserve again. If you're ready to hear the whole story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow, I will be giving you another story just as crazy as this one. And you don't want to miss it. The silence in the car wasn't new. Julian gripped the wheel of the sleek black Bentley, eyes fixed on the road ahead. His jaw was tight, sculpted like the rest of him, hard edges, polished exterior. Imani sat beside him, her arms folded across her lap. She wore a silk cream blouse and tailored pants, the kind of elegance expected of a billionaire's wife. Her lipstick was perfect. Her posture, flawless. But her eyes? Empty. "Are you seriously still upset about the dinner?" he asked, finally breaking the silence. She turned to him slowly. "It wasn't about dinner." Julian exhaled, annoyed. "You made a scene." "No," she said calmly, "I made a point. There's a difference." He said nothing. They drove for another mile before he turned off the highway toward a gas station. He didn't ask if she needed anything. He didn't even look at her. "I'm getting something to drink," he muttered. "You want anything?" She shook her head. He stepped out, slammed the door, and walked into the station. Through the window, she watched him argue with the clerk. Everything was always an inconvenience to him, including her. She reached into her purse for her phone. No battery. Of course. She looked out across the flat road, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across cracked pavement. A tumbleweed rolled by. When she looked back at the car, it was pulling away. Not slowly. Not uncertainly. Julian was leaving. She jumped up, heels clicking as she reached the edge of the lot. "Julian," she yelled. "What are you?" But the Bentley was already turning back onto the highway. He didn't stop. He didn't look back. And just like that, she was alone. A woman dressed in designer clothes, stranded at a gas station off a forgotten road, holding nothing but a handbag and a silent phone. The cashier stepped outside. "Ma'am, you all right?" She didn't answer. Her throat was tight, her face calm, her back still straight. Only her hands shook. She turned back to the bench outside and sat down, legs crossed, hands folded, eyes forward. No tears. Not here. 3 years ago, Julian had flown her to Paris just to see the Eiffel Tower at night. Back then, he smiled easily. He'd touch her back when she walked through doors. He'd ask what she wanted and mean it. She used to believe that man loved her. Now, she wasn't sure that man ever existed. She stared down the highway. Cars passed. None stopped. She could call a friend. But what would she say? "He left me here like I was nothing." The truth was too humiliating to speak. So she didn't. She sat there for an hour. Maybe more. The sun lowered. The shadows stretched. Then she stood up. And began walking. Julian returned to the penthouse hours later. Alone. No message from Imani. No calls. No news. He assumed she got a ride. Maybe she was trying to prove a point. She was dramatic like that. But part of him, the part he ignored, felt something crack. He poured a glass of bourbon. Looked out at the skyline. The city was his kingdom. But that night, for the first time in years, it felt like a fortress. Imani made it to a roadside diner. A kind truck driver gave her a ride. He didn't ask questions. Just offered her a bottle of water and a soft look that didn't pity her. She thanked him. She used a payphone to call a rideshare, using her work emergency card. And she didn't go home. She booked a room at a cheap hotel. Washed her face. Removed her wedding ring. Then she sat on the edge of the bed, legs folded under her, and whispered aloud for the first time in years. "I don't think I love him anymore." The words felt both terrifying and freeing. She didn't sleep much that night. But when the sun rose, she smiled. Morning light leaked through the stained hotel curtains. Imani stood at the edge of the bathroom sink, wiping mascara smudges from beneath her eyes. Her face was tired but not weak. She looked into the mirror and said nothing. Just watched. For years, she adjusted herself, her tone, her schedule, her smile, to keep a man comfortable. But she didn't owe anyone a version of herself that made them feel bigger. Her phone was dead. So She plugged it in slowly, then hesitated. The screen blinked on. No missed calls. No texts. Nothing. She let it drop to the bed and exhaled. Not from pain. From clarity. This wasn't shock anymore. It was instruction. She packed her things. The handbag, her shoes, the ring she placed inside a folded napkin. Not a single tear. Not because she didn't feel it, but because she refused to offer her pain as proof that he meant something. Imani walked to the nearest bus stop and got on without checking the destination. Anywhere was better than going backward. Julian sat in his corner office, windows stretching across the skyline. "Your wife hasn't been home," his assistant noted casually, dropping a folder on his desk. He didn't flinch. "She'll be back." But he said it like a question. By lunch, he called her number. Ring. Then voicemail. He didn't call again. Control was familiar. Silence was comfortable. Until now. Imani booked a studio sublet under her maiden name. Paid 3 months upfront. She filled out a job application for a boutique design firm she used to freelance for, before her marriage became a full-time PR role for a man who never thanked her. She clicked send on the resume. Then went out and bought herself a cheap notebook. On the first page she wrote, "Day 1. Not waiting to be rescued." The old her might have called. Explained. Pleaded. This version? She sat in a cafe and built a budget. Sketched clothing concepts on napkins. Listened to the noise of strangers without flinching. She let herself be ordinary again. Unseen. Free. Julian sat in bed that night, scrolling through photos from past vacations. Every smile she gave the camera now looked different. Practiced, paused, posed. He zoomed in. On her eyes. On the way she held her own hand when he wasn't holding it. He dropped the phone on his chest. And, for the first time, didn't know what to do. Imani made dinner for one. Pasta, cheap wine, a playlist of songs she used to love before she had to curate everything for luxury guests and investor dinners. She danced barefoot in the kitchen, half laughing when she bumped into the counter. That night, she fell asleep with music still playing. And a small smile on her face. By day 4, Julian convinced himself she was being dramatic. She always cools off, he told himself. She just needs space. He told no one what happened. Not even his assistant. Not even his lawyer. But when he walked into their penthouse and the housekeeper said, "Mrs. Hart's closet is still untouched," something in his stomach tightened. She didn't come back for anything. Not even her passport. Imani didn't stalk his socials. Didn't send a message. Didn't watch the news. She threw herself into sketching again. Fabric swatches, design boards, job interviews. She stopped signing her name with his last name. She stopped saying it at all. At night, she didn't cry. But she did whisper things she'd never said out loud. "You don't get to leave me and still keep my silence." Julian met with a divorce attorney, not because he was ready to divorce her, but to prepare for control. "If she files first," the man said, "you lose leverage." Julian nodded, jaw tight. "Draw it up." Still, he didn't send it. The papers sat in a drawer. Because the more days passed, the less sure he was that she'd come back. She saw a man in a cafe who looked like Julian from behind. She froze. Her fingers gripped the edge of the table until her knuckles whitened. But when the man turned around, it wasn't him. And that fear? That wasn't about him anymore. It was about the part of her that still tensed at the possibility of being seen by the man who never really saw her. A boutique agency loved her portfolio. "We remember your work from the nonprofit campaign years ago," the creative director said. It was honest. She smiled. "I forgot what that felt like." They offered her a freelance contract. Small but real. That night, she toasted her glass of water to herself. And said out loud, "He'll never know this version of me." Julian walked through the penthouse. Every surface was spotless. Every room cold. The closet still full. But the scent of her lotion was gone. He sat on the edge of the bed. Then lay down in her spot. But it didn't smell like her anymore. "She'll reach out," he said, staring at his ceiling. "They always reach out." But even as he said it, he knew Imani wasn't like them. She never played the game. She didn't chase. She waited, once. Now she didn't wait at all. Imani bought a plant. She called it Proof. Because nothing in her old life grew. And this did. She watered it every morning, turned it toward the window, and promised herself she'd do the same, for herself. Imani never sought the spotlight, but her designs caught the eye of a nonprofit hosting a high-profile art auction. They invited her as a guest of honor. She almost declined, until she saw the sponsor list. Heart Global. Julian's name. His logo. His money. Not her world. Not anymore. But for one night they would breathe the same air. And this time, she wouldn't flinch. The valet opened the door. She stepped out in a tailored black gown, clean lines, backless, timeless. No over-accessorizing. No desperation to impress. Her hair in a sleek bun. Skin glowing. Confidence undenied. Photographers blinked. "Miss Clark, who are you wearing?" She smiled. "Mine." Julian was mid-conversation with a hedge fund chair when he saw her. He lost the thread. Imani. Untouchable. Entirely changed. She didn't look at him. Not once. She walked past like he was furniture. And it rattled something deep. He didn't plan it. But fate, or put them at the same table. Across from each other. Too close to ignore. Too far to fix. "Didn't expect to see you here," Julian said after the first course. "I'm sure you didn't," Imani replied. "You look unfamiliar," she offered. He swallowed. "Different." "I had to be," she said, not breaking eye contact. "What I was didn't survive you." Silence. Her words didn't cut. They clarified. The table laughed at jokes. They didn't. Julian watched her charm COs with ease. Gracefully decline wine. Nod thoughtfully at art. She didn't once look at him for approval. She didn't look to him at all. And somehow, that stung more than anger. After dinner, he followed her to the balcony. No crowd. Just wind and moonlight. "Why didn't you come back?" he asked. She turned slowly. "I was already gone when you left me. That night just made it official. I thought you'd call." "That's what hurt," she said. "That you thought I would." She stepped past him, heels soft against marble. Then paused. "I used to wonder if you ever saw me," she said without turning. "But now I don't care." Then she walked away, head high, spine straight. And this time, he was the one watching her disappear. After the gala, Imani walked home. Not driven. Not escorted. Just alone, in heels she designed, on a sidewalk that didn't belong to him. She passed a street musician playing a Marvin Gaye cover. It took her back. To a night on a Brooklyn rooftop, before the money, before the private jets. They danced under string lights. Julian whispered, "I want to build a world around you." He did. Then locked her inside it. Julian returned to his office the next morning, restless. He opened a drawer to clear it out, and found a letter. Her handwriting. Folded, or never sent. He hesitated. Then opened it. "Julian, you love me like I'm a press release. Polished. Manageable. Presentable. But I'm messy. Loud when I feel too much. Soft when no one's looking. I tried to shrink for you. For your world. For your image. But now I can't breathe. If you ever read this, I hope it means I finally left." He read it twice. Then sat in silence. Imani sat in her apartment, running her fingers over the sleeve of a jacket she was sewing. She remembered her grandmother's words. "Don't you ever let a man call your silence loyalty. Speak, or you'll disappear." She whispered to the empty room, "I disappeared anyway." Then she picked up her phone. Not to call him. To call a gallery. She booked her first solo showcase. Julian went to the one place she used to find peace, the conservatory. He sat under the glass dome surrounded by orchids. He hadn't been there since they were married. A woman nearby complimented his shoes. He thanked her politely. But he couldn't stay. The silence echoed too loud. Imani had once stood in their kitchen, barefoot, holding a mug. "Do you even like me anymore?" she asked. Julian replied without looking up, "You're useful." She smiled, small and bitter. Right. He didn't remember saying it. She never forgot hearing it. Julian held the letter again. Her words burned now. He couldn't rewrite them. Couldn't erase them. But maybe he could stop pretending she was just a chapter. She was the whole damn book. And he hadn't read a single page properly. Imani lit a candle that night. Played Nina Simone. She didn't cry. She didn't rage. She simply laid the wedding ring she'd worn in a box of keepsakes. And whispered, "I'm not waiting for you to be ready to love me anymore." The night of her first solo showcase arrived. Clean white walls. Soft spotlights. Hand-stitched jackets and sketches framed like they mattered. She wore no jewelry. Just quiet confidence. Julian stood at the back. Alone. Uninvited. He didn't approach her. He just watched. Let her shine without interruption. After the crowd thinned, she stepped outside for air. He followed. Not close. Just enough. "You came," she said without turning. "I had to see it." "You always saw results," she replied. "Never the work." He stepped forward. "I saw the finish line. You built the road." They walked. No destination. Streetlights overhead. Coffee in hand. Shoes tapping pavement. She asked, "Did you read it?" He nodded. "I deserved every word." "No, you didn't," she said. "You deserved to understand what you broke." The pause. "Now you do." They sat on a bench outside a florist. He asked about her favorite fabric. She asked if he still worked weekends. He didn't. Not lately. He asked what music she'd been listening to. She told him. Played a sample on her phone. He didn't speak. Just closed his eyes. She let the silence live. "I'm not here to fix anything," he said finally. "Good," she answered. "I'm not broken." He looked over. "You ever think about what we were?" "I think about who I had to become," she said. "Because of me?" She nodded. "And in spite of you." The wind picked up. He reached out, not for her hand, but to steady the cup slipping from her lap. His fingers brushed hers. She didn't pull back. But she didn't hold on either. Before they parted, he asked, "Would you let me see more of your work?" "Why?" she asked, looking at him directly. "Because I want to understand what I missed the first time." Her eyes softened. "One piece," she said. "Don't ask for more." "I won't." Imani opened her laptop to find dozens of notifications. The headline stared back. Billionaire Julian Hart spotted reconnecting with estranged wife, PR move or private matter? She blinked once. Then clicked it. Photos from her gallery night. Him at the back. Her outside. One moment mid-smile, spun into strategy. The article quoted an unnamed source. He's been quietly working on their image. A soft reunion was planned. Her stomach sank. An official press release followed. From his team. Cold. Scripted. Protective. Mr. Hart values his personal privacy and is committed to maintaining respect in all personal matters. No mention of her name. Just optics. Just positioning. Just damage control. He didn't warn her. Didn't ask. Didn't say a word. She waited. An hour. Then two. Then nothing. She didn't text. She went to his office. Reception froze when she walked in. He stood behind the glass wall, surprised, but not enough. She stepped in. Closed the door. He tried to speak. She held up a hand. "You used me." "No." "You let them reduce me." "Again." "I didn't approve the release." "My team." "Your silence is the same as signing it." "I didn't think it would hurt you," he said, voice low. "That's the problem," she replied. "You never think I'm real enough to be hurt." Her voice didn't rise. But her presence did. She stared at him. Really looked. And what she saw wasn't cruelty. It was cowardice. "I gave you a chance to see me," she said. "You chose a headline." "Money, please." "Don't." She walked out. This time, there were no heels clicking. Just quiet steps. And the sound of him not following. Back in her studio, she sat at her work table. She didn't cry. She just turned her phone off. And pulled a new sketchbook toward her. On the first page, she drew a jacket. Protective. Beautiful. Nothing romantic. Just armor. Imani didn't return his calls. Not out of anger, out of clarity. She opened her sketchbook. Flipped past pages of fitted gowns, sharp lines, and guarded silhouettes. She stopped at a blank page. Wrote one word, enough. Then she packed a small bag, left the city, and took the train home to where she started. The cemetery was quiet. She sat beside the headstone, fingers brushing the edge of the marble. No speeches. Just her whispering, I left. For good this time. Then added, but I'm still not sure if I'm done loving him. Julian sat in the back of his own boardroom. He hadn't said a word all meeting. A slideshow of quarterly growth metrics played. He watched it unmoved, until a line on the screen read, personal brand trajectory, recovered. That broke him. He stood up, walked out, left the room, the building, and the brand behind. He found her studio locked. Her team didn't know where she went. So he guessed. The grave. He waited under a tree nearby. Quiet. Still. When she appeared, he stayed seated. Didn't interrupt. Just waited. She noticed him, but didn't approach. Not at first. She knelt by the grave, laid fresh flowers, sat in silence. Then walked toward him. She didn't stop moving until she sat beside him. No words. No sighs. Just air between them. He reached into his coat. Held out a folded letter. I wrote it 3 days ago. But it's not for PR. She didn't take it. Say it. He nodded. I saw the version of you I refused to believe existed. Because it meant I'd have to change. A breath. I was scared. You weren't. She looked ahead, not at him. I don't need you to be sorry. What do you need? She finally looked at him. Consistency. Presence. Silence when it matters. Words when they count. They didn't hold hands. They didn't promise anything. But when she stood to leave, she didn't walk alone. He walked beside her. 2 people, side by side. No title. No ownership. Just space being earned, step by step. The matte gray Rolls Royce pulled up outside the gallery. She stepped out wearing a clean white suit, sharp lines, minimal detail, everything hers. No security. No escort. Just Imani. Reporters turned. Cameras clicked. She gave them one photo. No answers. She walked inside. Julian waited by the entrance. Not at the front. Not with cameras. Just by the wall. Holding a folder. She didn't stop when she saw him. But she didn't flinch either. He followed slowly. He placed the folder on a side table. Inside, a contract termination, dated and signed. His signature. His company. No strings. She opened it. Read silently. Then looked up. I didn't ask for this. He nodded. That's why it matters. The gallery was filled with her designs. Fierce silhouettes. Bold fabrics. Statements with seams. Every piece said something he hadn't listened to before. One design stopped him. Simple. So, unfinished. He asked, why not complete it? She replied, not everything's meant to be wrapped up. He stayed until the last guest left. She sat beside him in the empty gallery, barefoot now, heels kicked off. You're quiet, she said. I'm learning, he replied. They sat like that for a while. She reached into her purse, pulled out the old napkin, unfolded it. Inside, her wedding ring. She placed it between them, not handing it to him, not asking him to take it, just letting it breathe. He didn't pick it up. He looked at it, then looked at her. Whatever we rebuild, he said, it starts with your terms. She nodded. And your actions. As they turned off the lights, he held the door open. She walked through first. This time, she didn't glance back to see if he was following. She knew. The next morning, they sat on her apartment balcony. No headlines. No assistants. Just coffee. Just sunlight. He poured her a cup without asking how she took it. She smiled. He finally remembered. What does real love look like after the damage? Could you walk beside someone who once walked away? Tell us in the comments. Someone might need your story. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.